Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone, members, officers, and members of the public to this meeting of the Planning Control Committee. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work. Susan.
Good evening. Can I confirm the following officer joining us remotely can hear us and that we can hear them? Tom Ray?
Yes, present.
Good evening.
Good
If a
evening.
member wishes to speak, they should use the speak button located on the microphone unit. The microphone will light up green and the chair will be alerted of your request to speak. When the public participants are invited to speak, their microphones will be made live by the committee officer. When requested to vote, voting will be via the yes, no, abstain buttons on your microphone unit. Details of how members voted will be shown on the screens around the room, and the result will be visible on the YouTube stream. In the event of a tied vote, the chair will have the casting vote. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? I will now hand back to the chair.
Thank you, Susan. Item 1, apologies for absence. No apologies for absence have been received. 2 minutes of the meeting, 9th of October 2025. I'd like to propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meeting held on 9th of October 2025. May I have a seconder?
Happy to second.
Councillor Fernandez, thank you. Any comments on the minutes? No? Okay. May we vote to approve the minutes, please?
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you. 3, notification of other business. There is none. 4, chair's announcements. 1, recording. In accordance with the council policy, this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be available both on the council's YouTube channel as well as on the council's ModGov site alongside the documents from this meeting. Declaration of interest. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under chair's announcements on the agenda. 3, to clarify matters for the registered speakers. Thank you to members of the public for joining us this evening. To confirm, you will have between 3 and 5 minutes, as advised by the committee services team, to make your verbal presentation to the committee. All speakers will receive a warning when you have 1 minute remaining, and at the end of your allotted time, you'll be advised that the time allowed has ended. Following a conclusion of your time, members will be invited to ask points of clarification. During the meeting, members of the committee will be invited to ask questions or points of clarification of the planning officer or public speakers. Please note this section is only for members of the committee to ask questions, and unfortunately, members of the public cannot speak at this time. 4, debate procedure. In order to move to a debate on an item, we will require a proposer and seconder for a motion at the appropriate time in the meeting. This should take into account the information in the officer's report and will follow the officer's presentation and any public presentations, including member advocates, as well as any questions of the officers and points of clarification for the members present. As a reminder for members, should you wish to propose a motion contrary to the recommendations included in the officer's report, you will be required to provide clear and evidence reasons for this proposal. 5, section 4.8.23a. For the purposes of clarification, in order to vote on an agenda item at this meeting, a member must be present for the entirety of the debate and consideration for that item. If members leave the room at any point of the item, they will not be able to vote. 6, meeting cut-off. As outlined under 4.8.24g of the Council's Constitution, if the meeting proceeds to 10:30 p.m, the item being considered at that time will be the final item considered at tonight's meeting. I'm not putting money on. I don't think we'll get to 10:30, but you never know. I'm looking at you, Ruth. The remaining business will be deferred to the next meeting on Thursday, the 20th of November. 5, public participation. I have listed for item 6, Leon Cassidy. Thank you. Item 7, Chloe Houston. Houston, sorry. And item 8, Nicholas Pellet. Thank you. Councillor Paul Ward. Councillor Ward. And Sophie Cairns. Thank you. Okay, so if we can move to item 6, application 2501539 FP, Holborn Farm, Dane End, Thirlwell, Royston, Hertfordshire. Before we start, I believe Councillor May wanted to say something. Bridie.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so I've been advised that I may have a declarable interest on item 6. My husband is a trustee of the Conservators of Thurfield Heath and Greens. And although in the planning officer's report nor the supplementary papers there's anything in there that would suggest that there would be a conflict or a declarable interest, I understand I looked at the planning portal this evening, and the officer's report says that there was no response from the Conservators of Thurfield Heath and Greens, when in fact there was a response on the 28th of October, which isn't referred to in the report. So I wasn't aware that I could potentially not be able to sit for this item, but I've taken advice from the locum planning lawyer, and they've advised me that it would be safer for me to not take part in this item and to leave the chamber for this item.
Okay, thank you for your candour. Oh no, just give you a chance to leave. You're not getting away. We'll call you back for the next item. There's no escape from the planning committee.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Did you want me to introduce the item?
Yes. So I was just waiting for Councillor May to leave the room. Tom, are you still there?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Sorry, we were just waiting for Councillor May to leave the room. Would you like to present? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. I just have one update for this item, and that is, as Councillor May referred to just there, we have received a letter from the Conservators of Thurfield Heath and Greens asking for a financial contribution of £680 towards a signage and website project focusing on managing the impact of increased visits to the Heath. This request is based on the Thurfield Heath Site of Special Scientific Interest Mitigation Strategy, which was published in November 2022. So if I could go straight to the slides, please, and the first slide.
The slides are already being shared. Can you not see them?
Right, yeah, thank you. Right, the slide 1 shows the location of the site on the east side of Dane End, which is a rural lane approximately 3/4 of a mile southeast of Thurfield Village. The site is within the rural area beyond the green belt, and Dane End is an unclassified road which is maintained by Hertfordshire County Council. The extent of the site, the subject of this application, is shown here crisscrossed in orange, and Holborn Barn, the subject of this application, is shown in pink and is Grade 2 listed and of 18th century origin. Holborn Farmhouse, immediately to the north, which shares the same vehicular access onto Dane End, is also Grade 2 listed and of late 16th century or early 17th century origin. Next slide, please. This slide, or this photograph rather, is of Holborn Farmhouse, which is directly opposite the barn, which is proposed for this conversion scheme. Both buildings share the same vehicular access shown here onto Dane End. Next slide, please. This is a photograph showing the entrance into the site with Holborn Barn in the distance. The large lime tree here has since been removed. Next slide, please. This photograph shows the south elevation of the barn, the subject of this application. Overall, the barn is in good structural condition, having been repaired and re-roofed over the years. Next slide, please. This slide shows the front elevation of the barn with a half-hipped roof facing the road. This part of the barn is non-original, having been added to in the 19th century. The single-story brick building on the left, shown in this photograph, is a former modern stable block addition, which is to be removed and replaced with a single-story garage building. Next slide, please. This photograph shows a closer view of the existing stable block, which is to be removed. And as this photograph shows, this part of the building is in poor condition and has a rather unsympathetic and awkward attachment to the listed building, or the listed barn rather. Next slide, please. And this shows the historic barn in the background with its modern extensions. Next slide, please. Again, this is a modern storage shed, which is also in poor condition and is proposed to be removed. Next slide, please. And again, this is the rear of the stable block, which I mentioned, the brick building, also to be removed. Next slide, please. This is the eastern end of the listed barn and the most original part of the barn. A new ground floor opening into the garden area is proposed in this elevation with timber shuttered doors. Next slide, please. So this is an internal photograph of the main listed barn. The barn has 7 bays, 5 of which are original. The timber framing is in relatively good condition, although it has been repaired in many areas, but it does retain a large amount of its original timber construction and therefore its historic character. Next slide, please. This is the eastern end of the barn and the most original part of the building. Next slide, please. And this is the western end of the barn, which was extended in the 19th century. Next slide, please. And this shows the rural character of Dane End leading towards the site. Next slide, please. Again, the approach to the site along Dane End past some existing dwellings north of the site. Next slide, please. And this is a smaller barn, also Grade 2 listed and attached to the main farmhouse opposite the site. And this was recently the subject of a conversion to residential use. The applicant's architects were previously involved in this scheme. Next slide, please. And this is the inside of that smaller barn, showing the completed roof and retention of the original timber framing, which is a detail which is also proposed with this scheme on the main Holborn barn. Next slide, please. Again, this is the site location plans showing the Holborn Farm complex alongside other dwellings in the lane. Next slide, please. So this is a plan of the existing barn and its modern additions to the north and the south of the main range. Next slide, please. And this drawing shows the northern wings, modern wings, and the southern lean-to extension, all of which are to be replaced by modern extensions. Next slide, please. This is the main north-facing elevation of the barn, which will accommodate the main entrances. The 2 new single-story extensions on the north elevation are shown here with their gable ends, and there are various alterations and interventions to the main barn, such as the provision of new door openings and timber shuttering. Only 1 roof light is proposed into the roof, and the pantiles will be refurbished, as well as the existing black timber cladding and brick plinth. Essentially, new window and door openings are kept to a minimum, with existing openings reused. Next slide, please. This is a section drawing showing the relatively low and subordinate scale of the new extensions on the right of the main barn. Next slide, please. This is a drawing of the main elevation facing towards Dane End. When originally submitted, the application proposed a 2-story replacement extension along this frontage, which was felt by officers to be visually intrusive and overly assertive, and a form of development which would erode the special character of the building. The application has since been amended to what you see here, which is a a more simple single-story structure, considered to have a far more acceptable relationship to the main barn and the street scene in general. Next slide, please. And this drawing is of the south elevation, showing a sympathetic single-story extension set back from the main road. This addition replaces an existing modern lean-to agricultural building. Next slide, please. And this slide shows the eastern elevation with the extensions either side of the main barn, replacing existing structures. Next slide, please. And this is the first floor plan of the conversion, showing just one bedroom within the more modern part of the barn and a non-habitable bat loft as required by the mitigation strategy set out in the ecological reports. The surveys have found that the barn has currently 4 bat roosts, which will be lost by the proposals and therefore require compensation. A protected species license will be required from Natural England to carry out these works, and a condition is recommended requiring the securing of this license prior to the commencement of works. Next slide, please. And finally, this is the proposed ground floor plan showing the general arrangement of the replacement extensions, all of which are single story. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tom. Right. Any questions from members for the officer? Councillor Winstanley.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Tom. Can I just check 2 things? The first one is that the reason it's come to us tonight is, I understand, purely because highways are not supportive due to the reason of access for pedestrian or cycle. Is that the reason? It's that sole reason that's come tonight?
Yes, Councillor. It's before the committee because we've got an objection from a statutory consultee, which is the Highway Authority. That objection is not based on any technical highway safety grounds. It's based on the principle of a new dwelling in a rural area, which is contrary to the local transport plan and the sort of sequential approach that the County Council have towards new development.
Perfect, thank you. And then just one other thing. It says in the report, well, at the beginning of the report, that there was, I think it's existing planning permission from April last year.
Yes.
I just wondered if you could just summarise what has changed since then, please.
Yes, I mean, this scheme is not too different from that existing planning permission. Perhaps the main difference is you recall that brick-built building along the frontage there. That building was proposed to be demolished, same as this scheme, but that was going to be a smaller carport building. What's proposed now is a larger carport and garage. So that's the difference there. The only other difference is on the south elevation, there is an existing lean-to building, and that will be replaced by a single-story extension. That area wasn't the subject of an extension on the approved scheme. So those are the 2 main changes, really.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Louise Pearce. Please.
Thank you. Could I ask 2 things also? So the new building that's replacing the carport that was proposed before, there's a tree that's very close to that. I think it's a plum tree. Will that be retained?
Yes, it's shown in the tree survey report to be retained. It will be pruned back, but it is shown to be retained.
Okay, thank you. And the S106 contribution that's been asked for, does that meet the necessary tests, and is the applicant happy to pay that? Is that something we need to query with the applicant?
Well, my recommendation is that contribution is not required. The first reason is that government advice on tariff-based contributions shouldn't be sought on small schemes and also on self-build schemes. This is being presented to us as a self-build scheme, so it would be exempt from any Section 106 contributions in any event. But apart from that, the contribution is very small. The Thurfield Heath Conservators have given us the figure of £680. But if the applicants were required to enter into an agreement to secure that sum, there are monitoring costs that would have to be paid to the council, as well as other legal costs. So the cost of all of that would be disproportionate to the money that's wanted to be collected. So for those reasons as well, it's not considered appropriate to enter into 106.
Thank you. Councillor Tom Tyson. Tom.
Thanks, Chair. I was just following up from Councillor Winstanley's question about the extant permission. That was, Tom, can you just confirm that that was granted despite the Highways objection at the time, and that objection was made on the same grounds as they're objecting to this particular application? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor. There wasn't a technical highway reason for objection last time round. It was, again, the principle of allowing new residential development in rural locations. The concern of the Highway Authority is pedestrian access along rural lanes. But yes, the same objection has been raised this time. So that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you.
Councillor Val-Bryant.
Thank you. Following on from Councillor Winstanley, the objection by Highways to a new development, am I right in believing that there were workers' buildings on this stretch of road in the past?
I'm not sure about that, Councillor, but this building would have been in an agricultural use with associated vehicular movements in the past. And, you know, our view is that notwithstanding any heritage merits about the application, there would have been traffic associated with this building in the past. So that perhaps would have had a greater impact than a residential use.
Thank you. Can I just put my asking about Fairfield Parish Council? There was no response from them?
No, I don't believe we have, no.
Okay.
Councillor Ruth Brown. Ruth.
Just to follow up on Councillor Winstanley's question about the changes from the previous permission, can you confirm from what you said, it sounded like the footprint is larger. Can you confirm how much larger the footprint of this new proposal is compared with the last one?
I don't have that figure to hand. It is a larger footprint, but the overall footprint now being proposed is slightly less than what's there at the moment. I think it's in the report somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
But yes, it is a larger footprint, primarily because of the frontage building being slightly larger than the two garage scheme before, and the single story extension on the south side, which wasn't part of the approved scheme.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have any further questions to the officer? No. In which case I will call on the applicant, Mr. Leon Cassidy. Leon, you've got 5 minutes, and I'll let you know very gently when you've got 1 minute left. 1 minute left. Cheers.
Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to say a few words. My wife and I purchased the property for my sister-in-law and her husband, Nick, who actually spoke here back in April 2024, after which approval was granted, and they continue to live next door. The amendments to the previously consented scheme are made since we purchased the site and represent turning the barns into our forever home and suitable for a growing family. We have a 16-month-old boy, and my wife and I would love to give him the safe countryside upbringing that we were both afforded growing up. Myself in the Shelfords and my wife in the villages outside Hertford. Both our families still live nearby. My wife and I, if we're lucky enough, plan to grow our family and therefore require the extended space we've applied for in the new application. An identical objection was overturned by the Planning Committee in April 2024, so it is somewhat disappointing to see it raised again on the same site just over 18 months later. Nick and Sophie, who live next door, continue to use the road that runs past the houses to let their sons learn to ride bikes, and very few cars use the lane, and any that do are at very low speeds. turning this beautiful listed barn into a forever home for my family who will secure its long-term future. At the moment, it's in need of significant investment, special care and attention. It's very likely an investment of well over £1 million will be required to bring the barns, back to their glory. And we will ensure that it's a very sympathetic blend of old and new. We will take great care and pride in the project. We're actually working with the same architects and builders who did the beautifully executed work on Sophie and Nick's house next door. Thank you again for letting me say a few words, and very much hope that approval is granted. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do the members have any points of clarification from the applicant? Councillor Ruth Brown.
Thank you. I'm just curious to know why you've decided to amend the application. I mean, you say you need more space. Did you, having got the permission, you then decided it wasn't big enough? Is that the reason you have decided to amend it?
Yes, we felt that to make it our forever home, it wasn't as we needed it to be for that. We need the extra space.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions from the committee? No. Okay. Going back to Tom Ray. Tom, do you want to respond to any of the issues raised?
No, Chair. I don't have any further questions to answer.
Okay. In which case we will move towards a debate. The officer's recommendation is to grant permission. Unless members are minded to propose a different recommendation on this item, along with material planning reasons, I should be proposing that they grant permission. Yes. Councillor Prescott.
Happy to second and reserve my right.
You're ahead of yourself there. So I was going to say, do I have a second? I'll let it. Councillor Prescott. Thank you, Martin. Okay. So therefore I propose that we grant. Sorry, I'm supposed to pause to let people speak. We're open to debate if members wish to contribute. Sorry, Councillor Brown.
I can't see any reason to object to this application. I am a little surprised by the Highways objection, and we didn't consider it a concern last time, so it would be inconsistent to consider it a concern this time. The slightly larger footprint, I don't have a huge problem with. Tom's confirmed that it's still less than what's there now in terms of built form. It's not in the Greenbelt anyway. It's at rural area outside the Greenbelt, so I can't see any reason to object to this. So I shall be supporting this application.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Emma Fernandez.
Yeah, just echoing really what Councillor Brown said. I can't see any reason to refuse permission for this. It seems to be a very sympathetic scheme. The Conservation Officer has no problem with it. It seems to be safeguarding a really valuable listed building and giving it another lease of life. So I will be supporting this application.
Councillor Val Bryant.
Yes, again, I agree with Councillor Fernandez and Councillor Brown, and I support the application.
Thank you. So now I'm going to read out my proposal properly the second time. So therefore, I propose we grant permission subject to A, providing delegated powers to the Development and Conservation Manager to update conditions and informatives as set out in the report, and B, conditions as set out in the report. Do I still have a seconder for that, Councillor Prescott? Thank you. Is there any further debate? In which case, we will move to a vote.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you. Could someone liberate Councillor May from her incarceration? And Councillor Bright can get a glass of water. Yeah. Were you here for the? Oh, I was here for the first one. It was really so. Welcome back, Councillor May. Okay. Okay, item 7, application 25-01745 S73, land to the east of Foxholes and Gainsford House and on the west side of Crow Furlong, Hitchin. Sarah Kasparian to present. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I've got no further update beyond my update published yesterday. Let's go to the first slide. Cool. Thank you. So this is the application site outlined in red. The site relates to the site allocation for housing reference HT6 in the local plan, which was granted full planning permission for 47 homes in 2024. The site is located to the west of Hitchin, between the existing urban edge and the countryside beyond. The site is adjacent to Foxholes Care Home and Gainsford House on Purton Road, with the site allocation reference HT5 to the north. The application before you today relates to the variation of condition 2 regarding the approved plans and condition 7 on drainage. The change to the plans include changes to house types, as Hill Group are now looking to develop the site. And another key change is the inclusion of a substation. Next slide, please. This is the aerial view of the site with the main site boundary shown. Next slide, please. This is the view of the entrance from to the site from the end of Grays Lane, looking towards the entrance where the substation, the new substation, will be on the left-hand side of the new entrance. Next slide, please. So this is the previously approved site plan, and the next slide will be the proposed site plan, so you can see the difference. If you'd like to go to the next slide. That was a bit zoomed out, but yes, very similar. So the new site layout remains very similar, with the main road structure, green space, and offsets around the boundaries. You can see in the top northeast corner of the site that the new substation is proposed there, set as discreetly as possible from view of the entrance without impacting on drainage or the hedgerow. Next slide, please. These are the plans for the new substation with the position on the site shown on a landscaping drawing. Next slide, please. So this is the approved site plan, but showing house types. And the next one will be the proposed site plan with the different house types. So you have a quick spot the difference. And next slide, please. So I haven't included all the different house types in this presentation because there's a lot of them. But instead there's a couple of street scenes. So there's 2 street scenes there, which we've taken the opportunity in this application to rationalise some of the materials, which are also being approved as part of this Section 73 application. So the application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions which are set out in my committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions from members to the officer? Councillor Brown.
The substation, I notice it's away from these new houses, but what impact will it have on the other houses that are existing? From that, it looked like it might have an impact. Can we see the slide again?
Yeah.
That's where it shows the house is it to the north?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one with the substation plan with the little snapshot of the drainage basin. So it's just, you've got the new entrance, which is further up the lane from where the existing entrance is. So that'll all be rejigged. And then the substation is set just behind a new bit of hedge, which will be planted. So
it's in that bit.
Yes.
There.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And there's one parking space, which will be, I think it's called turf guard, a sort of grasscrete type situation. So you shouldn't have much visibility of the substation as you come up Grays Lane.
I
It'll
like
be
that
hidden
zoom out.
by the landscaping, but it's the best place
Zoom
on
in
the
a bit.
site because I think it will serve HT, and maybe the applicant speaker can confirm, but I believe it will serve HT5 as well. So it's in the best place to serve the site as a whole.
Yeah, and it's not impacting. It's shielded from all the existing
yeah,
housing.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that now.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Councillor Winstanley, Dave.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Sarah. Can I just check something in the report? It says, so 5.2.2 says removal of footpath on both sides of the main road and along secondary roads. And then 5.2.4 says reduction of footpaths makes best use of the land. That just doesn't make, it sounds a bit counterintuitive to me. I wonder if you could explain what that means and maybe provide us with a bit of comfort that there will be footpaths.
Sure. Actually, that's not quite true. The Spine Road will have a footpath on one side of the road, but the other side will not have a footpath. And the part of the thought process in just some slight tweaks to the site layout was that around the green space in the middle of the site where the protected tree is and where the play space will be, there were 4 visitor parking spaces, 2 along 2 different sides. And the urban design officer thought that removing 2 parking spaces and putting them along the road where one of the paths were would be a better sort of use of the green space. And while not having 2 paths, it just it's not strictly necessary for highway safety. So we're still obviously the 1 footpath, and there's the crossing over the entrance to use that path into the site. And then the secondary roads, it's more of a shared space kind of road rather than having formal curbs and pavements. So that's the kind of thought process. And I think you gain a little bit more space for gardens and that kind of thing where you don't really need pavements on both sides of the road.
Thank you.
Oops. Councillor Louise Peace. Louise.
Thank you. Can I ask a couple? So I think if I read the documents correctly, there's 1 social rent property. Is that right? And is that the same as the previous?
The housing mix and tenure is all the same. I'm sorry, I can't recall the exact mix.
I don't think the housing mix is the same though, because in their market houses, they've gone from having 6 2-bedroom houses to 5 2-bedroom houses. And there were 9 4-bedroom houses, and now there are 10 4-bedroom houses. So they've swapped a 2-bedroom house for a 4-bedroom house. So I'm not sure the housing mix and mix is the same. And I need to check the affordable because it was very tiny.
Yeah,
and I couldn't place spot the difference.
It should have been exactly the same.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm sure I read that there's a change.
Bear with me one moment.
Yes, I think you can just see it's 6 to 5. And then I think it goes 9 to 10 at the. I might be wrong. It's in the documents somewhere.
Is it?
It's in the document. Let me find it in the documents. It was in the documents. No.
.5 that says all housing types will change, but the housing mix and tenures all remain the same. I don't know if that's helpful or not. That's 5.2.5. Yeah, I'm sure when we get to the applicant, we may have an answer to that, or we can certainly ask them. Sarah, did you have anything you want to add to that? Okay. Councillor, sorry, Ruth, did you want to? No. Councillor Balbrine.
Thank you. I don't think you mentioned in your report how our residents were going to walk into town. What would their route be?
So I didn't maybe explore that in this report because this is only assessing the changes to the application. So this is section 73 to change the plans and the drainage detail and discharge some of the conditions on the previous permission. So that's all I was kind of assessing. But when we went came to committee, what was it, a couple of years ago, with the full permission, it's an allocated site in the local plan. So it was already removed from the green belt, and having that assessment of it being a sort of sustainable site from that perspective. I think there was a Strand 2 contribution that was being taken for the site as well, with the calculation, the standard calculation towards various projects. So we can look into that after this meeting if you like.
So I was reading on the portal the comments from the residents, particularly those in Crow Furlong, and how they felt it would actually have a impact on them.
Okay. I mean, really, like the overall kind of picture of the site is that, most people would walk down Grays Lane. There was a footpath link through the main access. There was also a footpath link secured onto Crow Furlong in the full permission to help the permeability of the site. The link goes through towards that green space in the play area, thinking that maybe existing residents in the area would be able to walk into the site and use the play area a bit more easily. Obviously, the questions arisen that it's a private road, and so I don't know what the legal kind of ownership responsibilities are and whether the developer would actually be able to implement it in reality. I don't know the answer to that, but permission's already been granted for it. Is whether it can be implemented or not, I don't know the answer to that question, but yeah, we've done our kind of bit in terms of making the site permeable and connected to the existing community.
Thank you. Councillor Ruth Brown. Ruth.
Yeah, so moving, we've discussed the house mix and tenure, but in 5.2.6, it talks about the materials being simpler than before. I was wondering, have they reduced the numbers of types of housing to make it more sort of homogenous, or is there still a really good variety? Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, so actually, I think the number of house types have increased a little bit. Almost every plot will be slightly different, almost. But the material palette has been simplified. So it's basically just a kind of red brick and a black timber cladding to fit in with a kind of semi-rural agrarian kind of character. There was previously some render on the designs, which I think most developers aren't favourable for because it involves a lot of maintenance. So yeah, the material palette has just been simplified from that respect. But yeah, each type of house is different, so there will be quite a mix. Gables and mono, 2 pitches, and yeah, it'll be an interesting site to look at, I think.
Thank you. That's good to know. And I just wanted to ask about 5.4.18 HCC ecology. There's something about corrections being made through this section 73. Could you explain what that is? I mean, that sounds like a positive thing, but
yes. So the applicant sought to discharge a lot of the conditions on the full permission through this section 73, which is fine, but it made it, there was a lot of conditions to discharge. So that was just one of them, the open space management and maintenance plan. So we consulted ecology like we would always on applications to discharge a condition. And they came back with some comments. It was quite minor, but the applicant, it was quite cutting it fine for deadlines and things. So the applicant went away and updated the report, and ecology confirmed that they were accepted subsequently. And that was in my update note. So yeah, all good.
Okay, do we have any further questions to the officer? No? In which case, I will invite the applicant, Chloe Houston. You have 5 minutes and I'll let you know you've got a minute left.
Thank you. I'll address some of the questions after my presentation, if that's okay, because I have a pre-prepared presentation. So good evening, and thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak today. Hill is an award-winning, privately owned house builder with a strong track record of delivering high quality and sustainable places to live. The site being considered by you today is allocated for housing development in your local plan and already benefits from a full planning permission for 47 homes, which was granted consent in March 2024. The principle of 47 homes being developed on this site is therefore already established, and the existing consent could be implemented. Subsequently to the issuing of the planning permission, Hill purchased the site, and through collaborative engagement with the local planning authority and statutory consultees, Hill set out to achieve a better design for everyone. Hill is a 5-star house builder, and our houses are tried and tested by customers who continue to give us excellent customer satisfaction ratings year on year. Not only have we improved the proposed homes and their internal layouts, but we've also maximised and improved the landscaping design throughout the development. We've prioritised green spaces and key ecological features by retaining more vegetation and trees when compared to the consented scheme, making the appearance of the development softer both internally and externally. This has resulted in a significant improvement in the biodiversity net gain provision on site, with habitat units increasing by over 5% and hedge units increasing by over 19% when compared to the previous proposals. Garage and car parking positions have also been reconfigured to prioritise both private and public usable green spaces. A substation is proposed to the northeast corner of the site. The substation is required to ensure that the aspirational sustainability targets can be achieved, with all homes being heated with air source heat pumps and the provision of EV charging points, both of which require additional electric capacity. As a result, the anticipated carbon reduction on this site is over 50%. The same number of homes are proposed as part of this application, and the affordable housing proposals are consistent with the consented scheme, albeit we are providing more bed spaces in the affordable homes as well. And that all complies with the Section 106 agreement that is already in place. The vehicular and pedestrian accesses remain unchanged from the already consented scheme. We understand residents have raised concerns regarding pedestrian access to Crow Furlong. However, this access is already established through the existing consent, and highways have deemed the proposals to be safe and acceptable. There are no objections from technical statutory consultees, including highways, the Flood Authority, housing and ecology officers. This application also makes a substantial Section 106 contribution of over £1.4 million. These contributions will go towards education, transport and health facilities in the area. The approval of these proposals will enable us to provide holistic development with land that we're already on site delivering immediately north of the application site. This will reduce the construction programme and limit the impact on existing residents if approved today. To conclude, this application represents a meaningful improvement on the already consented scheme. It provides high-quality, sustainable homes that better integrate into the existing and proposed landscape. The proposal is fully compliant with planning policy, has the support of technical consultees, delivers clear social, economic and environmental benefits, whilst providing much-needed new homes in Hitchin. Whilst development on this site for 47 homes will happen, we are committed to making sure that it's the best development for everyone, and we therefore request your support for this application. Thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you, Chloe. Do we have any questions, points of clarification for the applicant? Councillor Prescott.
Thank you, Chair. It's possibly buried in the report and I haven't seen it, but is any provision for solar PV and batteries in any of the new properties? I note the substation and the requirement for, and the inclusion of EV chargers and air source heat pumps, but in terms of actually just minimising ongoing costs for the residents, I would have thought solar and battery might be helpful. I know it's not a requirement, but I just wondered if it, with Hill being such a well-respected house builder, maybe something they would consider.
Thank you. Currently, there are no proposals to have PV panels on the roofs, and that's mainly because in rural, sort of semi-rural areas that about the countryside, they can be, people don't like the look of them, basically. So we're trying to be as sympathetic to the existing context as possible. In terms of energy performance, air source heat pumps far outweigh carbon reduction compared to PV panels. So that's why we've chosen that route.
Councillor Louise Peace.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm coming back with my question from earlier. So it's in the covering letter that was submitted in July. It mentions that the market housing mix has changed from 6 2-beds to 5 2-beds, and it's gone from 9 4-beds to 10 4-beds. So essentially swapping a 2-bed for a 4-bed. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
From what you said, am I right in that you are already developing HT5, the 9 units north of this? Yes. So you would be, it's immediately adjacent to an existing site that you're developing. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any further questions for the applicant? Okay. Can I invite the planning officer? Do you wish to respond at all?
Yeah, can I say something then you say something? I just want to say that yes, noted, sorry, on the affordable housing. And I just looked back to see that the housing supply officer noted the discrepancy, but she was supportive of the slight change to the mix.
Thank you, sir. Sam.
So I'll just supplement that as well. We acknowledge, obviously, that the officer report says the housing mix remains as. Can I not? Oh wow, I'm hearing myself even more. Sorry, I'm trying to be quiet. I'm usually told to quieten down. So yes, acknowledge that the officer report says the housing mix remains the same, and that there is one less private 2-bed unit and one more private 4-bed unit. On assessment against the housing mix policy, I don't think it makes a difference to our recommendation, and the additional bedrooms in the 2-bed units for the affordable housing is a benefit that should be granted weight.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry.
Could I?
Very good cough.
Could I ask down the question, please?
You can.
Oh, thank you. And is it acceptable for housing mix to change like that via a S73 application?
I believe that's actually the note that Stephen just passed to me. Yes, you can change the housing mix in a variation. It's a minor amendment to the original permission, and it is in effect a new permission in of itself, which is why it's here at Planning Control Committee.
Thank you for that, Sam. And to Stephen, indeed. Right. Councillor Bryant.
Whilst everyone's asking Sam difficult questions, I thought I'd ask one. The comment about there being no solar panels because it was a rural setting. I think at the moment without housing, it's a rural setting. But once you've got 40 odd houses here and 9 beyond it, it will not be a rural setting. Would that be reasonable description? That we should have solar panels?
I mean, we take each case on its own merits. I'm not going to sit here and agree with the reason why the solar panels aren't there, but I don't believe in this case. I mean, I'm trying to think how far I should go in respect to solar panels and my views on them. They're my professional views. We need to create homes that are energy efficient, and there isn't a necessity to have solar panels on the roof for those to be energy efficient. It's something that you would do on a house that isn't energy efficient at the moment in order to upgrade it. New build homes should be able to be energy efficient without the provision of solar panels on them. We will seek them where we can, but it's not a necessity to make it acceptable in planning terms.
Thank you.
Councillor Prescott.
Can I just ask that it's fully minuted in detail that solar panels are not acceptable in a rural setting? So the next solar farm that comes before us for thousands of solar panels, we can use that as a precedent. Thank you to the applicant for pointing that out.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. Your rhetoric is noted. You have any other questions? Sorry. The officer's recommendation is to grant permission. Okay, I'm going to have additional. Okay.
So,
We're just, I think I might be getting an extra condition here.
so 9.1 on page 41. The recommendation there is that outline planning permission is resolved to be granted subject to the following, but A and B do not refer to the necessity for a new section 106 agreement having regard to this being a new permission. So I think we need to add a C to refer to a new 106 agreement. Does the applicant wish to express a view?
Just to confirm, we're not proposing to change the Section 106 agreement.
You may not be proposing to amend the 106 agreement, but it is the grant of a new permission. So the grant of the new permission will require a new 106 referencing the new permission if it's granted.
Right. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Does the Section 106 not allow for the instance of a Section 73 application? Because sometimes they do, where you don't need to do a variation.
I would recommend that the resolution is that if required in consultation with chair, that the recommendation is that there will be a requirement for a new 106 agreement.
Okay, if it is required, yeah, we're happy to obviously enter into a new Section 106, just including the reference number to the new planning permission. Yeah, if required.
Yes, so my recommendation is that I will consult with the chair to express a view, having heard.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Okay, so do I have some wording for C before I make a mess of trying to read it out?
So C will be the completion of a new Section 106 agreement if required in consultation with chair.
I can't read my writing here, let alone yours, Stephen. Right. So where was I? The officer's recommendation is to grant permission. Unless members are minded to propose a different recommendation on this item, along with the material planning reasons, I shall be proposing that we grant permission. Martin.
Just before I'm quite happy to second, but just before I do so, can I not ask for some additional clarification on the point that Stephen just made? Presumably the new Section 106 will mirror the original Section 106. So I don't really see why there would be any hesitation on the part of us or the applicant or anybody else.
Sorry. It would take a lot of time to do that. So Section 106s aren't necessarily being turned out at the quickest rate at the moment, and it will delay our start on site. The main reason that we've discharged our pre-commencement conditions under this application is so we can move swiftly and deliver the two development sites holistically together. So we would rather not have the delay if it's not required.
I understand the point of concern as to delay. However, it's fundamental that if my advice to chair is that a new 106 is required, that is what members resolve to grant the permission on.
Absolutely, yeah. Fine with that.
Okay. So, Councillor, no. Right. Therefore, I propose that we grant planning permission subject to A, providing delegated powers to the Development and Conservation Manager to update conditions and informatives as set out in the report. B, conditions as set out in the report. And C, And C, completion of a new Section 106 agreement, if required, in consultation with the chair. Yeah. Okay. Martin.
Sorry, on the basis that the Section 106, if required, the new one, is expedited, because I do hear what the applicant is saying, I'm happy to second and reserve my right.
Okay. I'm just trying to work out if that's seconding or it's may I just bring Councillor Brown, because I think she actually indicated first.
Well, I'm happy to second. And yeah, I hear the concern and of the applicant in wanting to get on with it. I imagine this new Section 106 will be identical to the old one, but if it has to go through a whole legal process, I understand that there's a delay, and that seems ridiculous. But if it needs to be in the permission to ensure that the Section 106 does go forward, we would hate to be in a situation where we have a 47 dwellings with no 106, wouldn't we? And that there's a legal loophole. So I understand the reasons. But I just wanted to say I think this application is clearly better than what we had before in many, many ways, and I welcome it. I notice there's quite a lot of improvements around trees that haven't been mentioned, and I welcome the fact that the council is going to adopt the open space. I welcome what the applicant has said about redesigning to make it as good as possible and high standards, and the fact that heat source pumps will deliver really a great carbon saving and energy efficient homes. So I will be supporting this Section 73 application.
Thank you. So just before I bring Councillor Preskin to confirm, I propose granting permission subject to conditions A, B and C. Councillor Brown has seconded the proposal, so we are in debate. Martin.
Well, I'm happy whoever wants to second it. That doesn't bother me at all. And I agree entirely with what Councillor Brown has said. I think we're getting a lot better. I just want to come back to the point about the new Section 106. I can entirely understand why it would be required. We don't want to, and I'm sure the applicant wouldn't want to be finding a loophole to avoid it. But I do think it's incumbent upon the council to expedite wherever possible for the exact reasons that the applicant has already given. We wouldn't want to seem to be obstructive in any way whatsoever. And I think if you added the word expedited somewhere in there, I think it would be helpful.
I am going to allow our lawyer to comment on that if he wishes. I'm not fighting words with lawyers here.
I think to add the wording will confuse matters. We need to establish whether a new 106 is required or not. If it is required, then the legal services will expedite it. But the critical point is we must protect this permission to ensure that it has the protection of a 106 agreement. That's my concern.
Okay, I'm going to avoid commenting on the idea of a lawyer not wanting to add words to confuse things. Do we have any? Yeah, Councillor Peace. Sorry, Stephen, was a cheap jibe at lawyers.
I just wanted to say I will be supporting this. I just wanted to acknowledge some of the comments made by local residents about Crow Furlong, but just to say that that access was already granted, as the officer has said, in the previous application, and therefore it's not relevant to this one, unfortunately, regardless of the concerns they have. So I will be supporting it.
Oops, thank you. Any further comments? Right. So the proposal is to grant permission. If we could vote, please.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, so item 8 is we like TPOs at the moment, don't we? We're on a run. TPO 00221/2025, land at Crouch Green Wood and Churchwood, 3 House Lane, Codicott. Tom, ready to present?
Thank you, Chair. Just for the information of the committee, this matter is being brought to the committee for consideration as the applicant has objected to the provisional TPO, and as such, the council's constitution requires under paragraph 8.45 confirmation of the order to be made by a committee decision. In terms of updates, just have one update. Since the report was published, Chair, I have received some additional comments from a local resident, which I can briefly summarise as follows. Firstly, the resident would like to say that the woodland offers public benefit in that it can be viewed from Three Houses Lane and from neighbouring properties, and that the owners have not provided any documentation that assesses its value. The woodland and the trees are also under threat given recent tree removal, compaction of ground within the rooting areas of trees, and changes to drainage and other ground disturbance. The next point is that a tree preservation order does not encumber proper management of the woodland. The owners have also shown no inclination so far to enter into a management plan. Furthermore, the tree preservation orders provide an effective protection to trees threatened by development. The site has a history of tree removal in recent times for development gain and not for woodland management purposes. None of the site's management accords with proper woodland management as prescribed under the UK Forest Standard. And lastly, that works to trees and the site, including the provision of a drainage pond, demonstrate that there is an imminent threat to the woodlands and individual trees and flora. So if I could move to the slides, please. So this slide shows the location of the two woodland areas, the subject of this provisional tree protection order, and they are marked out in a dark green. The two woodlands amount to cumulatively 4.9 hectares of land. The site is located within the Greenbelt north of Codicot Village. Members will also see from this plan that there exists an existing woodland TPO opposite the site with that reference TPO /068, which was confirmed in the mid-1980s. That particular woodland area comprises a mixture of oak and hornbeam trees, species which are also similarly found within Crouch Green Wood and Church Wood. The site itself is also is designated a local wildlife site. The site fronts Three Houses Lane, which runs in an east to west direction and contains several dwellings and farm buildings. In between the two woodland areas shown on this plan and shown in a light brown colour are a group of 3 barns that have recently been the subject of a business use. Next slide, please. And this slide is another location plan showing the general area of the woodland site. And it's just north of the former Node Business Centre site located to the south. Next slide, please. And this is an aerial image of the site taken this summer, and you'll see from this the very high density of trees to the north of those barns there. Next slide, please. And again, an aerial photograph showing the density of trees either side of those agricultural buildings. Next slide, please. And this is a street view of the Church Wood element of this site on the left there. Further along is the site entrance. Next slide, please. And this is the site entrance to the farm buildings with Crouch Green Wood on the right there. And you'll see with that tree in the foreground, there's already been some tree works to that tree, as well as a lot of other tree work in and around these woodlands, which are led to concerns by officers and the proposed tree protection order. Next slide, please. And this is an image of an historical survey map undertaken by Ordnance Survey in 1881, showing Crouch Green Wood and Church Wood. Next slide, please. And again, an image of Crouch Green Wood and Church Wood, taken from the Ordnance Survey map of the late 1880s. Next slide, please. And again, a similar image of the trees on these maps, taken from the late 1880s. Next slide, please. And members will see from this, outlined in red, the trees in question. Again, this outline is overlaid the 1881 Ordnance Survey map, which just indicates how long these woodlands have been in existence. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions from members for the officer? No? In which case, I will move to public supporter, Nicholas Pallett. Nicholas, you've got 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have a minute left.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak today. You have heard Officer Tom Ray's very detailed report, which recommends that a permanent TPO be placed on Crouch Green Wood and Churchwood, Three Houses Lane. I am speaking to support the formal confirmation of the tree preservation order. In this, I am representing in excess of 30 local residents and other concerned parties, including professional woodland and countryside experts who also wish to see these ancient woodlands permanently protected. It is important to remember that both Crouch Green and Churchwoods are also local wildlife sites, forming part of a highly sensitive, wider ecological area, which is increasingly rare and vulnerable to any form of development. As well as being a host to all manner of wildlife, its very existence is appreciated by all those who pass through the canopy that surrounds both sides of Three Houses Lane, a narrow public thoroughfare used not just by residents but horse riders, walkers and cyclists, and indeed over 1,000 half-marathon runners last weekend. For centuries, these woods have enjoyed a natural existence, free from development, hosting undisturbed flora and fauna. Benign custodianship of generations of local estates ownership has given us, at no cost, a natural habitat that has taken centuries to evolve. It is irreplaceable. In association with unauthorised works on the adjacent barns and fields, these woods have suffered damage, depletion and inappropriate development over a period of nearly 2 years since this land has come into present ownership. This has been well documented, with local residents supplying the planning and enforcement departments at the council with regular information as incremental and highly damaging works have taken place. I draw your attention to the map associated with this matter. If you'd like to bring it up again, if that's possible. The wood known as Churchwood W2, shown in dark green, has sculpted out of the TPO 2 areas in light green. These are firstly an area adjacent to the access track from Three Houses Lane, and secondly an area behind Churchwood adjacent to the field. Until 2 years ago, these areas were covered with ancient trees that have been removed by the present owner and replaced with various forms of development, including widening the access with a concrete road from Three Houses Lane, concrete hard standing for an unauthorised car park, the base and surround for an unauthorised additional porter cabin type building, and inappropriate underground concrete channel drainage to a much enlarged and in itself an inappropriate drainage pond sited in the woodland, having removed further trees. This pond now discharged directly onto Three Houses Lane in wet conditions, exacerbating the known flooding of this section of the public highway. The thinning out of trees from both Crouch Green and Church Woods has reduced the density of ancient tree coverage. Additionally, spoil, mostly clay, removed from on-site drainage excavations, has been deposited on tree root protection zones throughout Church Wood, which has raised the ground level above the base of the trunks of the remaining trees. The raised ground levels and flooding of the woods is deleterious to the survival of the trees. Large areas of English bluebells, a protected species, have been covered in clay. In general, the undercroft, an important element of ancient woodlands, has been scraped out as one might an overgrown suburban garden.
1 minute.
Jonathan Terry of Sylvan Resources, a registered consultant of the Institute of Chartered Foresters, Chartered Environmentalists, and a professional member of the Arboricultural Association, was engaged by Catherine Gillings, a local landscape architect whose own property, the Japanese Gardens, is adjacent to the TPO site and shares root protection zones with ancient oaks either side of the shared boundary. Tarmac and builder's rubble has been deposited within the RPZ of these trees and still remains. Terry's report states, TPOs provide effective protection to trees threatened by development. The TPO site has a history of tree removal for development gain, not woodland management.
May I ask you to sum up, please?
Yep, none of the site's management accords with proper woodland management as prescribed under the UK Forest Standard. I need add no more. These woods need statutory protection from inappropriate development. Confirming the TPO is the only way to achieve this objective. Thank you, Chair.
Right, any points of clarification from the members? To Nicholas. Councillor Valbryant.
Thank you. I can see from the photographs that the trees are mainly coppiced, and presumably in the past they have had a long-term management plan, and that what you require is the conditions in which this will continue for decades, if not centuries to come. Is that right?
Benign neglect is the best way forward, really, as it has been for hundreds of years. This is formerly part of Lord Brockett's estate, where he lived in, Charles Norcane lived in the node, and these woods were used in association with the estate and the local wildlife activity, including the shoot and hunt and all the other traditional things. So, yeah, it was a local resource and still is in a different way.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions, points of clarification? No. In which case, I have the member advocate, Councillor Paul Ward. Paul, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, I wanted to take a few moments tonight to speak in support of the tree preservation order. Back in September 2024, I was contacted by residents of Three Houses Lane, one of which is here tonight, who were concerned at the activity of one of the properties on the lane and the impact this was having on the woodland area. Whilst, of course, this agenda item tonight is not about the planning status of that property, the latest situation on that, I believe, has been explained to you in the planning officer's report. Tonight, I want to try and bring to light the reasons why this TPO is important and the impact that the lack of preservation has already had on the environment there. I met with residents several times to listen to their concerns and see the woods for myself. It's also an area that has amenity to our wider community in Knebworth. It's easily accessible from Old Knebworth via footpaths through Knebworth's estate. For example, I was cycling there myself with my son on our first venture out from COVID lockdowns in 2020, and it's a stunning part of our green environment, which is under pressure as we find land to meet our housing needs. I visited the woods myself in September, and I can confirm what I saw was completely in line with what the officer has outlined in section 4.3.2 of the report, namely the significant tree removal. I counted at least a dozen trees that I could see adjacent to the road, excavation of the trenches, erection of a metal boundary fence, and clearance of the woodland flora by covering it with spoil, in particular damaging the wild bluebells that were there. So I believe the officer has gone through and assessed the objection raised to this TPO, and I concur with his analysis in the report. For example, I don't agree with the suggestion that the TPO is premature and disproportionate. I think the track record on the ground that I've described above clearly proves otherwise. I don't agree that there is no value in the TPO because the woodlands are screened. It's an irony that there was no screening until some of the events above I just described took place, and therefore I believe the TPO is critical to protect and preserve what remains open now. Therefore, I wholeheartedly support the officer's conclusion on paragraph 4.3.7 of the report, in which he says the site has high ecological status, and that is because the scale of unauthorised works and damage that has already been caused to the woodlands, it is imperative that the woodlands are given protection. On behalf of the residents, I hope you support the officer's recommendation to protect and preserve what now remains of these woods for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Are there any points of clarification from the member? None? Right, in which case, may I call the applicant's representative, Sophie Cairns. Sophie, you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm here to object to the confirmation of the proposed tree preservation order covering Crouch Green Wood and Churchwood, Three Houses Lane. In our view, the proposed TPO is neither justified nor proportionate. For a TPO to be confirmed, trees must make a significant contribution to public amenity. However, the woodland areas affected are not visible or appreciable from public viewpoints. There is no meaningful visibility from public highways, only minimal fleeting glimpses. As such, the woodland does not make a prominent or significant contribution to the public landscape. Government guidance makes clear that a TPO should only protect trees or woodlands offering significant amenity value. In this case, Crouch Green Wood and Churchwood are located on private land with no public access or rights of way. They are not used for recreation or community purposes and therefore provide little in terms of public benefit or amenity value. Applying a blanket woodland TPO in these circumstances without any evidence of imminent threat is disproportionate. The current owners have already demonstrated responsible and sensitive woodland management. They have actively addressed historic neglect by previous owners and are undertaking replanting and are committed to maintaining and enhancing biodiversity. Responsible woodland management often requires flexibility, such as selective thinning, coppicing, and safety works. A TPO introduces unnecessary administrative hurdles to this routine management and potentially discourages good practice. Rather than protecting the woods, it could actually discourage proper ecological care. We would instead urge the council to consider a collaborative woodland management plan. This was discussed in a recent meeting and is supported by the owners who are willing to formalise such agreement through a planning condition or legal agreement to secure the woodlands' long-term stewardship. A pre-application is currently ongoing with the council and puts forward the idea of a woodland management plan for the site. We're awaiting confirmation of a meeting date to agree a long-term solution for the site. It's also important to note that existing legislation already provides protection for the woodland. Under the Forestry Act 1967, felling more than 5 cubic metres of timber per quarter requires a licence from the Forestry Commission. This safeguard exists regardless of any TPO. No formal assessment or evidence appears to support the making of this TPO. Neither the landowners nor we as their agents have received any arboriculture assessment from the council despite lodging formal objection. National guidance states that local planning authorities should consider the condition and health of trees, the quality and longevity of their structure, and the degree of public visibility and amenity value. No industry standard evaluation has been presented. The absence of such evidence undermines the justification for the order and is inconsistent with national guidance. A review of the proposed TPO was undertaken by a qualified arboriculturist commissioned by the landowner. The review concluded that these woodlands have low public amenity value. It should also be noted that the area shown on the TPO plan extends beyond the land owned by our client. In summary, the proposed TPO fails to meet the national test for designation. The woodland is privately owned, visually screened, and provides limited public benefit. The owners are responsible and committed to conservation and open to formalising a management plan that balances protection with sustainable practice. We therefore respectfully request that the Council withdraws the proposed TPO and instead works collaboratively with the owners to establish a woodland management plan. This would be an approach that could secure long-term stewardship without imposing unnecessary restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Are there any points of clarification from the members? Councillor Brown.
You've repeatedly said that you'd be prepared to enter into a woodland tree management plan, and yet our officer said that there was no inclination of the owners to do so. Is this the first time that you've said you're prepared to do that?
I believe that it was the officer summarising a late public comment that said that we hadn't initiated any discussions about a woodland management plan. We have put this forward to the case officer, and we are due to have a meeting to discuss this and the longevity of the site and how best for it to be managed in the near future.
Thank you. Martin Prescott.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. Firstly, how does the applicant's agent answer the claim that there has been a lot of spoil added to the floor of the forest around the trees and that is potentially damaging the trees? And the second question is not necessarily, I suppose, for the applicant's agent, but really generally, why would the imposition of a wide area TPO prohibit a tree management plan? In fact, in the officer's report, it specifically says that you can manage so long as it's done with due consideration to the trees themselves. So, two questions.
In relation to the first one regarding the spoil, I believe this was just from the drainage works that were put in place for the mitigation against the flooding of the road. I don't know the extent of the soil, nor have we seen any evidence of bluebells that were there, especially when soil was deposited in certain parts of the site. And I don't believe this is to the extent that allegations have kind of claimed that it's to the extent of. And in regards to the woodland management plan, your second question, I think the issue with the TPO is the administrative hurdles, where the woodland management plan would effectively mitigate the need for a TPO when it can be done for a woodland management plan that secures long-term stewardship of the wooded area.
Do we have any further questions, points of clarification? No. Can I invite the officer, Tom Ray, did you wish to respond to any of the issues raised?
Thank you, Chair. Just about the woodland management plan, the only way that can be secured is through a planning application and conditions attached to any planning permission or Section 106 that might be associated with that permission. Currently, we have an application lodged with us for the equestrian building at the back of the site. That has now gone to an appeal. It is possible that a woodland management plan could be secured through that application, but that would be my concern, that it's okay talking about agreeing a woodland management plan with the council, but there has to be a mechanism for that to be done, and that would normally be through a planning application, in my view. Just on the point of the justification of the TPO and the site not making a significant contribution to public amenity value, you'll see from the presentation that there's a very long frontage to this site onto Three Houses Lane, and as Mr. Pellet mentioned, Three Houses Lane is used by a number of people for recreational purposes, and it's a very long frontage from which views of the site can be easily obtained by members of the public. So I disagree with the assertion that the site doesn't have a high visual amenity value. In terms of species that have been planted, there has been some species planted on the site, but they are non-native, and they've been planted around the back of the boundary fence, which has been erected at the front of the site. And there's concern that planting that's taken place so far is not of an appropriate species for this site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. So the officer's recommendation is to confirm the TPO. Unless members are minded to propose a different recommendation on this item, along with material planning reasons, I shall be proposing that we confirm permission. Therefore, I propose we confirm the provisional tree preservation order TPO 00221. May I have a seconder?
Very happy to second.
Looking in the wrong direction. Councillor Bryant, thank you. Okay, so we are now in debate. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Just wanted to come back to the subject of amenity value, and I hear what the officer says, that there is amenity value, but I don't think a TPO is just about amenity value. I think it's about protecting ancient woodland. If you look at 4.3.3, CPRE Hertfordshire, Natural England and the Woodland Trust are all concerned about the impact of works on this area. And the comments about the woodland from the Woodland Trust in 4.3.6 talk about ancient woodland is an irreplaceable habitat. And it's about ecology, it's about biodiversity, it's about an ancient, irreplaceable ecosystem. It's not just about people walking and enjoying the scenery. It's a lot more than that. And we must protect these areas. So I shall be supporting this application.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Do we have any other comments? Councillor Prescott.
You invited me before I even pressed the button there, Chairman. Thank you very much. You're getting really good at this. I entirely agree with what Councillor Brown has said. There's much more to it, protecting the trees, than just simply the amenity value. And I'm not convinced, given the works that have been carried out there over a period of time, as per the officer's report, that the owner is as committed to maintaining and improving the woodland as the agent would suggest. So therefore, I would very much be supporting this proposal.
Thank you, Martin. Councillor Louise Peace.
Yes, I'll also be supporting this. To protect the trees, not only by ensuring that no harm comes to them, but from no irresponsible planting also causes harm to them. I think we've seen on a previous application that those trees referred to around the fence were laurels, and they're certainly not native, and we need to do what we can to protect the native species there.
Thank you. Do we have any further debate? Councillor Billing. Oh, sorry. You're just teasing now, aren't you? Just go on, ask the question then.
Who can answer this, really? It's about bluebells. I'm concerned that there's been some mention of bluebells, and I know they certainly grow around the area. And I just wondered, does that come under tree preservation of woods? Is there any sort of protections for the bluebells, really?
Would any of the officers like to? Oops, I'm looking for Tom. He's not in the room, is he?
Through you, Chairman, I think the bluebells are protected in their own right through the Wildlife and Countryside Act. So there is other legislation to protect the wild bluebells.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for that. And I just want to add that I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Thanks, Claire. Any further? Okay. If there's no further debate, the proposal is that we recommend that we accept, from the exact words, that we confirm the TPO is the word I'm looking for. So all those wish to vote on that.
Chair, that motion is carried.
Thanks, Susan. Item 9 is appeals. Sam Dacoka to present. Sam.
Good evening, members. Hopefully you've all noted the appeals report. Not too much to add to what's written down. 2 residential extensions refused justifiably and dismissed at appeal based on the impact on the character of the area.
Thank you very much, Sam. Any questions to Sam? Martin.
It's not listed, Sam, but the appeal hearing on the cabinet in Reed, has that actually taken place now?
I don't actually have any information available on that. I wouldn't want to answer you incorrectly, and I'm not familiar with it. It's not one of my area sites.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Right. The report is for noting. Duly noted. The next meeting of the PCC is on the 20th of November. Can I also remind you all that we have a very, very important training session on Monday? Can we all try to get to it? Can I also ask everyone to remind your colleagues, the both substitutes and other councillors who may well have to come to this committee as member advocates at some point. It's really important that people come along. Thank you. Martin, I'll leave the last word to you.
On that very point, I've noted that we are able to attend virtually. I had already said that I would be able to attend, but if there is the option to attend virtually, I would rather take that up. And I have emailed services to say that very thing. I don't know if other members noted that you can attend virtually.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I'll hopefully see you on Monday, and if not,